Okay. All right. What's the next? Oh, let me, in your notes there, under each section that's color coded, if you look, there's a copy of the ALBC defines a heritage chicken, then you got their conservation priority poultry breeds. You can kind of see how they break it down: critical, threatened, watch. And then the next page, there's an article there. You can take the time to read that another time. So, set the next in the notes. What is it? Are they purple? Is that purple or is that what color is that? Lavender, purple, whatever. But anyways, that's where we're at. We're going to make a huge shift to facilities, feed, and forage. Okay, and facilities, feed, and forage. And in this section of notes, if you look, there's some different models of poultry housing, and again, these are some resources that you can look over and work through. You know, basically on facilities, you know, there is pretty much whatever you want you can find. All right, like this is a great book. If you haven't seen it, you're welcome to, I'll pass it around. Chicken coop, 45 building plans. All right, and now I will tell you that one plan that's not in here is a good breeder house, because nobody's breeding. All right, and we hope to develop some more things that really lay out a much more breeding plan. But really, I'd encourage you, if you're interested in learning more about breeding housing, what Jennifer's doing and what Pat just recently has built. She could share with you a little bit of what they're doing and how their breeding situation is set up. But I'll pass this around as well, and you guys can kind of take a look at it. Okay. So we're going to eat, just so you can kind of plan mentally, physically. We're going to eat around 12:30. I'm going to play catch up here a little bit. I want to make sure that we get through all the content, a lot for us to move through here. I'll tell you, part of the long-term vision, and it's not happening today, but really we want to continue to work toward this, is we build relationships with chefs. We really only have just a couple in Western North Carolina that are really buying in and catching on to it. But what would have really been fun, we do it in some locations, but weren't able to pull it off today, is have a chef here maybe take and cook some of Rocco's heritage birds off of this farm and for you to eat them. But unfortunately we weren't. We're doing the lovely little Subway sub sandwiches for dinner, but we'll do that around 12:30, and so you can kind of plan your body for that. I'm actually hungry right now. Are you at it, Tim? Oh, it's a feed.
On that note, at the poultry school in the spring, our students will actually be preparing the birds, the process on the farm for that. Yeah, so that week, all the meat will come from birds produced by the Western Piedmont, grown out by the Western Piedmont program. So local chefs are going to be cooking it as well. So one more thing real quick.
So session 3, facilities, feed, and forage. Let's fill in some blanks here. All right. So a couple of things. First of all, under facilities, you need to decide if you're going to do a permanent or a mobile structure. That's a huge question that you kind of have to determine for yourself. I don't have strong opinions one way or another. You can interact with other farmers and hear a little bit of what they're doing as far as, with are you have a mobile unit that you're moving around? Part of it is how it's integrated into your farm. Are you going to have it follow cows? A little bit of Salatin of let's make sure all the chickens are following the cows. Rocco was moving our turkeys around all over here, and if you've ever raised turkeys, specifically heritage turkeys, they have a mind of their own. They're drastically different than chickens. Right, Rocco?
Totally different.
Totally different management, and so, and we discovered, okay, and I'll talk a little bit about fencing, that as our turkeys grew, we put them in electric fencing. They're like, why are you doing that to us? We like going outside those, okay? When a turkey decides, or a group of turkeys decide they're going somewhere, you're not stopping them. Okay, they can fly. You know, heritage birds are real similar temperament, personality of an eastern wild turkey. Okay, so one of the things, and we were moving it around, one of the things we did is, then I said, Rocco, let's take the mobile unit, and until we process a few of our extra birds, let's make it a kind of a, just park it. Put it in a, what is that, an acre or two?
About 1 acre.
About 1 acre, okay? And it's outlined by fence. What is that, a 5 foot or 6 foot?
6.
6 foot stock fence, okay? At first we discussed putting electric all the way around the top, because we did lose a few turkeys here to predators. But I think we're through that stage. And now they still fly out. He spends quite a bit of time getting a few birds from the outside back to the inside. But my whole point is we moved those around and tried to do the electric netting. And then when the turkeys got bigger and their flock was, you know, big, then we just made that permanent structure for the time being. All right.
6 head of roots.
Well, you can go down and see. He did some real creativity with the roosting system. But I'm going to tell you, a lot of people, and this is not in the notes, but make a note of it, if you're a turkey person, turkeys love just roosting outside. Now, he'd call me when he was moving in, like, Jim, they're going up in trees. I'm like, that's all right. Let them be turkeys. Don't pull them down out of the trees and say you can't be a turkey. You know? You can be a heritage turkey. Get down out of there, all right? So now the other day he called, or was telling me, I said, how are they doing? He says, oh, there was about 50 of them over in the cornfield. Like, hey, guys, come on home. And you'll see when you go out to the birds, because Rocco's done a great job of kind of building a relationship with that flock, they'll be following you around. I don't know how they feel about a crowd, but hopefully they won't fly over to the Baptist church. So principal requirements for comfortable poultry housing. Remember, poultry require fresh air, sunlight, dryness, and space. Okay? How many of you had birds pecking on each other to where they drew blood? It's called cannibalism. Okay? Let me tell you why cannibalism happens. It's one of 2 reasons. They're crowded or they're bored, or a mixture of both. Okay? They also need warmth. Warmth is not the idea of warmth is not a requisite in a house for birds that are well feathered, healthy, and have no tender appendages or large combs and wattles. And so I get this question all the time. What birds can handle our severe weathers in western North Carolina? Okay? It's not severe here. Okay? All right? I mean, just about every breed when it comes to cold, never ever is it cold enough in North Carolina, even in the mountains where it gets 32 for, you know, a few days. All right? Remember, Chanticleers do great, and it's below 0 for weeks and weeks and weeks in Canada. A Wyandotte comes from upstate New York. Okay? And so I'm tempted to tell you the Rocco's greenhouse story, but I'll refrain from that. Or do you mind?
What?
It's a great learning lesson for him. Real helpful. When it got, what was it? How cold was it?
It was a cold winter we had.
So he calls me, it's kind of how we met.
Yeah.
He says, hey, I got all my chickens, I put them in my greenhouse. And I mean, what happened to them, Rocco?
I put a bunch of chickens in the greenhouse at the vegetable farm, which is down the road. And it was, what was it, last winter was warm, the other winter before that was your regular winter. And it was that winter, I think, 2 years ago. And then the greenhouse effect, you know, bright, sunny, beautiful, clear winter days, the greenhouse is toasty warm. I mean, it was 30 degrees out, but it's 60, 65 in there. And I didn't have any of the fans going because I wanted to keep all that heat for the birds because I was worried they were going to get cold. And I was putting down a lot of carbon, hay or leaves, and kind of layering it. And that's a fertility thing, layering it with the manure. Anyway, long story short is, and I called Jim because one of my roosters, I heard him and I got alarmed. He was crowing like this. You know, a big, vibrant crow, he was crowing like this. You know, just exhausted. I picked him up and I could hear him wheezing. He was like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. I just met Jim, so I called him up. And they got, they didn't have enough fresh air.
Huge.
In that audience.
Okay, and so the idea of just kind of application is, you know, fresh air is very, very important, and just about all the breeds that you're interested in will do great in this region. They'll do fine. Okay. So housing space, fill in the blanks. Large fowler, each laying hen needs about 2 square feet per bird. All right. So if I say we're going to have 20 chickens or 10 chickens, I'm talking about 20 square feet in the house. Okay. So you do the math if you want to develop your breeding pens or whatever. Roost, 1 foot per bird, 2 feet per bird for turkeys. All right. Now I was starting to tell you when I'm talking about roost for turkeys. Okay. I know many, many flocks of heritage birds of all varieties. The most unique, I saw a picture of, I would say, 50 bourbon reds lined against a fence in western Montana with about 4 or 5 inches of snow stacked on it. They're just doing winter. Okay? Turkeys love to roost. I mean, you can build roosts. It doesn't have to be inside. You can build roosts for turkeys, a section of them, and just put them out in the yard, and they'll perch out there.
Like in the Martin turkey management,
Yes.
they even warn a little bit about like rain and weather and some of the older books. Are they just talking about the commercial ones, or do
Well, you remember, I mean, that's the best turkey book there is.
I can only get it online. I've just started reading.
Yeah. But I would say they were alluding to some of, we were putting, when they wrote that, there was some commercial birds that were being introduced into the, yeah. But your Naries, they'll do, oh yeah, they'll do great.
So if we have turkeys escaping to go roost in trees, can you create that same sensation for them by just doing an exceptionally tall roost in the field?
Absolutely.
You know, 20, 30 foot pyramid, you know, like an A-frame or something, that's just bars that they can go sit on?
Yep, absolutely. And that's what I was telling Rocco, is you gotta figure out what they like. He put a section of scaffolding out there. Were they roosting on that?
Big time, every night.
Every night. Under the section of scaffolding.
Is
You
there
know?
anything to the, something said like the higher ones, they're going to try to create?
Yeah, they will. They'll try and go a little bit higher.
Do you want them to be level? Like, is it create a dominance problem or something?
Doesn't matter. Either way. And Rocco, when he'd say, Jim, there's 15 of them up in a tree. Where are they coming down? Are they coming back down into the pen? Just let them do it. See, we're going to process a lot of those. We're going to select breeders and process the rest. And so we're at high population right now. Okay? And so, flooring, I say, and this primarily, well, I say chickens and turkeys. I would encourage you, this is strictly my opinion, to never use wire. Use wood or use dirt. You know, as far as floors. It's just my opinion on that. You know, back when we were, if you look in Marsden or some of the old, when they discovered blackhead on some of the turkey farms, there, you know, it's in the ground, so they were raising hundreds and thousands of turkeys on wire screens. You look at some of the old turkey books and you'll see that. That's why they did that. They kept the turkeys up off the ground to keep them away from blackhead.
If you want humane certification, you actually can't use water.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Remember, all heritage birds need roosts. They like to fly, including turkeys. Okay, in our standards, if you go, when we certify flocks, if you go to our standards on the sustainablepoultrynetwork.com, we do not, we never allow salads and pens in our farm flock certification. But anybody have any idea why?
A what pen?
A Salatin pen. That's
Joel?
Joel Salatin's kind of he was the kind of the forefather of.
That's what I've got my meat chickens in.
Oh.
Those cages.
That move around?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, go ahead.
They can't fly.
Well, that's right. See, remember, well, probably all of you know this. I mean, a Cornish cross does not fly. Okay, Salatin pens are, I think, about 10 feet by 10 feet by 24 inches high. Okay? Now, some of you will go, oh, that's kind of a small pen. Great for Cornish cross. They're great to move around. Okay? A Buckeye likes to fly. Oscillopes want to fly. Delaware's gonna fly. Turkeys, you know, our industry turkeys at diesel, when they're at 20 weeks, and they're like, oh, you know, can you get me to the processing plant? All right, not these bronze. These bronze are, so part of our commitment with our standards for welfare is letting the bird naturally behave. So on our standards, you can see it on the website, is I think we do a minimum of 6 feet, even on our grow out pens. Okay, that kind of thing. So they like to fly. Facility challenges. I already mentioned behavior management with cannibalism. Parasites and mites is the next blank. Summering, let me just tell you this. Okay, I'm working with a lot of new farmers that have never raised large numbers of birds. Now some of you might laugh at this, but this is how simple. I had to do some mentoring and some teaching with some of our farmers in the heat, especially in the Piedmont this last couple months ago. I go out and it's over 100, you know, in Concord, and the birds are panting heavy. Okay, they're in a shaded area, and then you have 10 feet over is their water and the bright sun. Okay, let me tell you, so you can connect the dots. I used to make this assumption. A chicken that's hot, beating hot, is not looking at the water going, they're looking going, I refuse to go out in the sun. They do not walk over to tolerate the heat, go to the water, drink their water, and go back to the shade. Okay? The key to hot weather is shade and fresh cold water. Okay, so I tell the farmer, all I did, I walked over, I took this water and I put it in the shade, and they went crazy. Now those are chanticleers, and we lost a few of those birds. But you do have summering issues, especially in the Piedmont, right? Not so bad in the mountains, but still. Okay, so remember when you're dealing with birds, you know, the whole shade thing. Don't make their shade where they have to travel to get to it. It's want to be their primary place of hanging out. So if you have a chicken coop, and you actually, when it starts getting hot, you might build some kind of a shade structure with a tent or with a tarp or something like that. Okay, that is a challenge when it comes to your facilities. Space and pasture, generally speaking, we recommend 100 turkeys per acre and 200 chickens per acre. That's free ranging, pasture based, letting them go. All right?